Morning.
Hello.
Give me one that I can talk to the group about. We'll talk after in specifics.
So you see a lot online about coffee grinds and eggshells.
Yep.
Sometimes it says put it in your garden bed. Sometimes it says it's not good for it. I use eggshells around my squash plants because the squash bugs don't like it at the beginning. And I've always used coffee grinds.
Good questions.
Oh, and tea leaves.
So coffee is acidic and we have an alkaline soil. I don't have all the answers. I have my opinion. It's very strong. I'm very opinionated. If you've heard my commercial, it says a pleasant but honest answer because I'm brutal. And my staff said, your honesty sometimes hurts. So the pleasant but honest, the honest is brutality. And I've got a gal that we just hired that I have to correct because she put some stuff on Facebook that I'm like, no. I was on the news 3 weeks ago because the weather was 60 degrees and Tessa's a gardener, she grows plants. Garcia, the weatherman, and another weatherman, they came out and interviewed me, beautiful weather, and said, what should we do? And I said, there is about 80% of what I have out, everything I have outside, and everything I have in that house over there can be planted today. All of it. The stuff that can't be planted is where I'm brutal and honest. Geraniums, basil, peppers, it's way too early. And here's my brutality. I hope you do because it's gonna die. And it's not if it freezes, when it freezes, it's gonna die. And it's gonna freeze. But here's what people hear. It's gonna freeze and it's all gonna die. That's all they hear. The news people said, don't plant, it's way too early. I'm like, well, my whole news article was, cool season stuff goes in right now. Lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, collards, Swiss chard. Most of your herbs, all of your fruit, ground vegetables, onions, carrots, garlic. Now, if you wait to plant lettuce till May, you missed it. It's too hot. On a good year, I will get lettuce and tomato at the same time, and by Mother's Day, maybe I'll get a BLT. By June, it's done. Lettuce is over. It's too hot, it's bolty, it's bitter, it's tough, it's no good. Our average last frost date in Albuquerque is April 17th. Our last known frost date for new people is May 10th. So for the next, where are we? 19th? March 19th? For the next 3 months, right? March, April, May, yeah. For the next 2 months, it's too early. There's a thing we sell called a wall of water. The guy that invented these called them a wall of water. He doesn't make the wall of water anymore. Now this other company makes this one. The guy that created this thing to me is a genius, like physics genius, worked in the military, driving by ponds, watching steam come off the ponds, and going, if I could harvest that, and made a wall of water. And I felt like that's misuse of genius because this is what you made out of that kind of brain. Because physics in water cooling down creates heat. It's not just a greenhouse, not just it keeps it from freezing. You fill these tubes with water, makes a little cone. As water cools down, it creates energy in the form of heat. I've seen tomatoes grown in the middle of Minneapolis, in the middle of March with a foot of snow around them. There were weeds growing inside this thing. You put it out, you leave it out for a week because even if you don't freeze inside of here, if you don't heat up your soil, your plants aren't going to grow, they'll stall. Put a tomato in cold soil, even if it doesn't freeze, if the soil's not warm, you haven't gained much. If you're growing here and you're new, I would encourage you to put in raised beds. There were 3 of you, not all new, but 3 of you asking, how do you grow here? I lived in Rio Rancho for 15 years. My vegetable garden, so I'm not underestimating, I'll say was this big. The first year I grew, I put 100 bags of soil in an area this big. By fall, it was gone. Gone. Not a little change, not a smell change, gone. Like there was no difference. I couldn't believe it. I understood why people move out there and say, I ain't doing it. It's too much. 5 years of hundreds of bags a year before the soil changed. 5 years. I started composting in my yard in Rio Rancho. I just composted through the backyard. When the compost pile got done, I didn't move the compost, I planted in the compost pile. So I composted the whole yard. And I left that corner as my sourdough place. So and I'm a lazy composter, every spring about now, between February and March, I would go in, take the rough off the top, take the good compost out from underneath and rake it into the rest of these beds and start over with a sourdough, if you guys know sourdough culture. Bacteria decomposing, feeds on nitrogen. Nitrogen is the number in a fertilizer. The first number in a fertilizer is nitrogen, 1910-5. The bacteria that causes decomposition feeds on nitrates. So you put compost maker, usually a nitrogen. Manure. Blood meal is a natural form of nitrogen. Manure is hot, so you got to get that culture working. I moved to the North Valley. I thought, well, excuse me ladies, I'm the shit. I'm gonna grow down here. Like I grew up here, at least there's some body in the soil. Same. Added soil, added soil, added soil, added soil. My wife says to me 10 years in, we should do raised beds. Oh God. I cussed and swore and shook my fists at the heavens like, we had horses, I've been putting stuff in this soil for 10 years. Now we're gonna put in raised beds? It's been 20 years now. I should have put raised beds in 20 years ago. Best thing we ever did. As I told the story, part of it ties in. I stood in awe at 45 years old or 50 years old at what raised beds did for our garden. I was in shock. Stuff grew, it flowered, it produced, it grew out of the beds. Why? Because I wasn't trying to grow in our soil. Our soil sucks. Can't grow here. I will talk people out of it every single day, and 4 out of 5 times the people that don't want to do it say, if you say, I said it on the radio this morning, if you say you don't want to do it, I'm surely not going to try. Blueberries, hydrangeas, azaleas, will they grow here? Yeah. You better have a lot of time and a lot of patience, because I ain't doing it. They hate it here. When I first opened up, I was asked, do you carry blueberries? I'm like, no, they suck. They don't grow here. Yeah, but you carry azaleas and Japanese maples. All of these things that I'm mentioning need the same stuff. Water, shade, rich soil, moisture. They hate it here. That year I bought 20 blueberries. Because somebody said, well, can you get them? I said, I can. Jennifer and I have tried to grow blueberries. We said, nah. We did pretty good 1 year in a pot, except we have peacocks in our neighborhood. And I love the peacocks. I love the noise. I hate the mess. And last year we could not grow a cucurbit. Cucurbit is the family of squash, cucumbers, melons. We couldn't grow one. We could not, because they ate and ate and ate. So this year I've got to figure out some sort of roofs for these raised beds to keep the peacocks out. We had 25, maybe 30 peacocks. Somebody came and harvested half of them. Really were pretty grateful. I'm glad they didn't harvest them all, but that's too many. But we did raise beds, and I did it the redneck way. I had a cordless drill. Jen found sawmill ends at this sawmill out in Bernalillo, which are the edges of the log when they make timber. I don't cut, I don't measure twice, cut once. I just slid boards together. That seems about right. Zip, zip. Screwed things through the yard, filled them with soil, and moved on. This last year we paid a guy to put in beds We used the seats from UNM football stadium. It's really cool. The numbers are exposed. They're this tall. There are no bottoms. There's no logs. There's nothing in the bottom. There's no cardboard, none of that crap. that I'm reading on the garden center groups that are Facebook. When I said earlier I have to correct, and then one of my new hires that put something on there, it's like, wait, that's really misinformed. My beds are bottomless. We used Soilution soil in the beds. Again, brutally honest, I'm struggling with my manager because he's not quite into it as much as we are. We carry a product, will you grab me a bag of Ocean Forest? Yeah. We carry a product called Ocean Forest potting soil, really expensive. It's got what they call a 30-day charge, meaning it's got enough nutritional value in the bag that you shouldn't have to fertilize for the first 30 days. We put that product, which she went to get for me, and Soilution's product, and Soilutions is a local company, 25 years in the business, who makes soil from debris that would normally end up in the dump. They can't call themselves organic because, and I got in trouble, and I rightfully got in trouble. If it's not certified organic, it's not organic. A lady came in and asked me, is this organic? I said, no, but that doesn't really matter. She said, what do you mean it doesn't matter? I said, it's a dog with papers or a dog without. That's where I come from. That's what I believe. She's like, I want it certified. I said, then I have to tell you it's not certified. She said, have you never had fresh eggs? Poop. Shit. Really humbling for a customer to call me out. Yeah, there's a huge difference between eggs from that chicken coop in your yard, anything you buy at any store. Huge. I believe Soilution's product is about as organic as it's going to come, but it's not organic. Is there anything in peat moss I'm scared of? Absolutely not. I tell a big, bad, ugly guy story, and again, this is a lot to soil because that's what it speaks to. This time of year, I hire 30 people. I picked the biggest, baddest, ugliest guy in the group. Today, that's that guy. There's a bale of peat. It's 3.8, used to be 6 cubic feet. I stick a hole in the corner. I put a hose in it. I fill it with water where you can't tell. I grab the dry one and say, hey, grab the bale. It's 250 pounds the next day. You can't lift it. Why do I tell the big, bad, ugly guy story? Because people remember stories. You can remember the first 12 states, Rhode Island Reds. That story they told us about the chicken. Oh, that's one of the states, right? Oh, that's Rhode Island Red. Big, bad, ugly guy story. Why do I tell you a story about peat moss weighing 250 pounds? 3 reasons. 1, put the bale where you want it before you put the hose in it to get it wet, because you're not going to move it once you get it wet. Put the bale where you want it, put the hose in it. No, the big, bad, ugly guy's can't move it, so it's got to sit there for 24 hours and soak up water. And if you don't, from lessons learned the hard way, we did a raised bed, bale of peat moss in the bottom, mushroom compost at the top, straight. This time of year, kill strawberries 3 times in a month in mushroom compost. There are people that have done successfully. I burned strawberries 3 times. They died. It's a raised bed. I dumped out the bed, the peat moss underneath this mushroom compost. A month later with water every day, bone dry. Hydrophobic. Like if you put peat moss in a bucket and stick a hose in the bucket, the water will push the peat moss out of the bucket. It will not get wet. Oh, why would I use that? Well, we talked about alkalinity. Our water's alkaline coming out of the tap. Our soil is alkaline. Half the problems we deal with when we have a deficiency in nutrients are because of an alkaline soil that tends to lock up nutrients, the primary one being iron. Peat moss is the only soil that's acidic. The most acidic soil money can buy. I think you get 6 months. By next year, the acidity's gone. But it weighs 250 pounds. So it holds more water than anything you can buy. We'll talk about water next. And if you're going to grow a blueberry, or a Japanese maple, or a rhododendron or a hydrangea, we typically tell you use compost. We sell several Soilutions in bags. The one we sell the most of, and they just sold, so we'll see what happens there. We're a little honestly concerned with the company that bought them because they're selling to people we don't sell to, we won't buy from. So what's going to happen, we're not sure, but it's called Back to Earth. It's cotton ball compost, cotton ball, cotton gin. When you pick cotton, that little spiky thing that holds the cotton is ball, B-O-L-L, or gin. They don't go pick all that ball. They harvest the plants and turn it into compost. They turn it into huge furrows. Gets to a certain temperature, they turn it. Gets to a certain water content, gets too low, they add water and turn it. We get 3/4 inch screened, so it's raw. You open the bag, and those of you that are hippy dippy enough to know what seeds and stems are, when you open a bag of Back to Earth, it looks like seeds and stems. It's trash. It's junk. It's bulky. You're like, ugh. What? Why? The compost pile in my yard that took years and years to create, they will sell you the fines, the stuff that falls through the 3/4 inch screen. Just like peat moss, it's only got about a 6-month life. The life is gone. So if you get the 3/4 inch screen stuff, that decomposition process is continuing. Part of our hesitation with the company is what we consider their best mulch is called enriched mulch, and it's half mulch, half compost. It was said earlier, what does leaf litter become? Mulch. And what does mulch become? Soil. So what is enriched mulch? Next year's compost. This year's mulch is next year's compost. He mixed the compost in with his mulch. He sold his company. They quit making that product. It's one of my hesitations, like, okay, now what? Soilutions makes a garden floor compost or garden floor mulch. And they say the same. And I'm going to tell you the first 2 or 3 years that I grabbed that tree by the throat, like that, throw it in the back of my pickup, drive 50 miles an hour across the freeway, get home, knock its pants off, drop it in the ground, jump up and down on it, put my 2-gallon-per-hour dripper on it, go inside, turn on the TV, turn on the football game, turn on the timer, and come back a month later and wonder why my plant was dead because of what I just did to it. We recommend half soil amendment with the soil that's there. There is a point of over-enriching your soil unless you're growing a blueberry, a rhododendron azalea. Then you dig a 3-by-3 foot hole and you fill it with straight peat moss. And in 5 years, you pull out the plant and you put in a new one.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
If you're going in the ground, okay, I've run into this caliche. Okay, I'm up in the heights.
Yep.
You go 6-8 inches, fine.
If it's truly caliche, you gotta go through it. There's hard pan, and that's different. You can break hard pan, and there's clay. If it's truly caliche, which is white concrete, break through it. The roots won't break through it, so they'll hit and...
Well, that's the problem I've been having. The water and stuff, and then I find out I go, well, hell, here I am in the desert, pulled up on the rock.
You should, it's rotting in the desert. Why? Because it hit caliche and the water can't go anywhere. We bought an auger, and we're going to auger through it. If it's true caliche, there's no chemical or organic fix. You got to break through it. So if you're hitting 8 inches,
And also, after I have broken through a couple times, and seems like after water it gets harder.
yep.
Is there any kind of an amendment or anything that
The Back to Earth that's one of the reasons we sell the Back to Earth, because
bust through that and kind of fix it?
but, and again, growing some things in the ground when I lived in Rio Rancho, we had community mailboxes. The north side of my house, the property on the north side of my yard, was caliche. I gave up, I quit growing. I killed 3 trees because I was trying to grow a tree for the community over the mailbox. 3rd one died, I'm like, I'm done. New Mexico sunflowers that get 6, 8, 10 foot tall. This tall. I moved them to literally moved them to the other side of the yard. Next year they were 6 foot tall. I gravelled that side of the yard. There was no fixing it. And this is me, about the 3rd time, I'm done. It's time to move on. There are people that have more patience and more gumption than I do that want to do something hard enough to try and grow a blueberry and dig a 3 by 3 foot hole and do peat moss completely and grow the blueberry. Wow, I don't have the time or the patience. I ain't gonna do it. If that's it, what floats your boat and you wanna do it, okay, we can help you. I can tell you, but most people I find are like, nah, I ain't doing it. The hydrangea last fall was on the cart 6 times. 5 times when I told them, really? They were like, no, not me. The 6th person was like, yay! I'm glad I have a hydrangea. Erica Rowland and I and Jennifer all have kind of a relationship, and we were at a house a few years ago. She had a hydrangea in a pot, had 40 blooms on it. It was beautiful. Her name's Rowland. It was in a pot in the shade in the backyard. She wanted to grow a hydrangea. Okay, it can be done. How much work do you want to put in? How much effort are you willing to do? Yes.
We have really nice Japanese maples in our yard in pots.
And I had them for years.
I've had them for years.
And they're beautiful.
They're gorgeous.
Again, stories. We had a red leaf, fancy cut leaf Japanese maple. East, north, garage, wall, red leaf Japanese maple right here. No sun, none. No red. No red. Pissed me off so bad because I took it out and I moved it literally opposite. It was this time of year. It was busy. It was May. I killed it. It burned. But here, it was in way too little sun. It needs a little sun to be red. Now, but we move them around. We've got stuff in pots. I used to tell people 3 to 5 years, but we've got stuff in pots for years and years and years. So if you're into something like a Japanese maple or a hydrangea or a blueberry, then maybe consider a container and use something like the ocean forest or peat moss. I grabbed a hold of this 3 years ago now. How many are on Albuquerque Water? The Albuquerque Water Authority gives rebates, and if you haven't looked at 505 outside, do so. They taught pruning 3 years ago and last year. 3 years ago, he stood in this class and said, how much water do you think that big sycamore in my landscape needs a week in the summer? Any guesses?
A lot.
None to a lot. Give me a gallons. Drip systems are run on gallons per hour. The typical answer when I ask somebody how much do you water is 20 minutes 3 times a week. The debate I had, and since this was a political year, I'll keep it as a debate. It was an argument with a lady that knew more than me. Said, I know how to water. How dare you, young man? Okay. How often? How long? 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Good. How big is your dripper? Excuse me? How big is your dripper? What? Your dripper. The thing that water comes out of. How big is it? I don't know. So we're going to argue, and yet you don't know. Let's make it easy math. Let's make it 15 minutes. 3 times a week. 15 minutes. Let's say it's a gallon per hour, because drippers are 1s or 2s. Maybe you get lucky you find a 4. I have 4s on my tomatoes. The sprays is 20, wide open. The octopus is 8. The one that's got 5 little, that's 8. 1 gallon per hour, 15 minutes. How much water is that? It's this jar twice, guys. It's a quart. It's a quart of water. It's a mayonnaise jar. And when I get the light to go off on people's heads, and they're like, what? How much water did that sycamore need? 300 gallons a week. What? 300 gallons a week? You can't water it with a drip system. But you can. How do you do it? You buy Netafrim that has drippers every foot. And you can buy 50 foot, 100 foot. You buy a 50-foot roll of drip tubing and you put it around the tree. 50 foot, because that's where the water belongs. It belongs out here, not here. What do? We buy the plant, we knock the pads off, we kick it in the dirt, we put the dripper right here. Does the drip system grow with the plant? No. Does it need to? Absolutely. Do you have to have drippers? Yeah. Now, plants live through it, and it shocks me. Trees live when, I'm like, how much water do they get? 300 gallons a week for a big tree in the middle of summer. He was a little startled because I went into such a great amount of detail with this, and you put a 50-foot tube around this tree, and you do it 3 times a week for an hour. It's still half what the city says that the water authority, who gives us rebates, says the tree needs. And last year I brought this up, and a lady rightfully said, wait a minute. Wait, that's not all trees. She's right, it's not. Used to be. Mulberries, ash, sycamores, 300 gallons a week. How about Chinese pistache? We'll talk about elm because elm is, oh gosh, can't say elm. Desert willow, foresteria, vitex. All but 2 of those trees are shrubby, bushy trees. They're not trees. 2 of those are trees. Again, stories. 2 people walk into the nursery. I don't see the one's face. I see just the 2, and they both have long hair, and I'm sexist, and I said, good morning, ladies. And the guy turns around and like, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. No, I'm sexist, and I got this stupid little braid on my hair that my wife loves. She hates it. And they said, we're looking for low water use trees. I said, now I'm going to be offensive, because I don't believe there is such a thing. At the time, we weren't selling elms. And Chinese pistachios was over 20 years ago. Chinese pistache was like, I don't know. In the last 5 years, Chinese pistache is the up-and-coming tree from New Mexico. It's big. It's beautiful color in the fall, and it varies. I mean, there's yellows and oranges and reds. It's a beautiful tree. Really, really ugly to start, and really misshaped and awkward looking until it finally gets going, and once it gets going, it's a beautiful tree. But it took us 10 years to kind of believe that, and now they're nice trees. We sell a lot of them, and they don't need 300 gallons of water a week. When I talk about elm, I talk about elm because people say, oh, elms, oh, Tingley's curse. If you guys don't know who Tingley is, he was the mayor and the governor, and he introduced all of those trees. Are Siberian elm. We call them Chinese elm. They're weeds. They're one of the only trees I know that can close. They can stop the release of water. Most trees just have to go through it. Last year we were 95 plus for 10 days. And water's just going through those trees. Cottonwoods will take 500 gallons of water a day if you give it to them. Where do they grow? They grow in the river. They gotta have water. Success is water here. Can I overwater? I encourage you to try. That's how I feel about it. We got one section that I'm a beekeeper now, and it's changed my world because I wouldn't put a chamisa or an Apache plume or a yucca in my yard. I hate that crap. It's weeds. I don't want that in my yard. Guess what? A chamisa blooms in the fall, and bees need food. Bees. It blooms in the fall.
Yeah.
Bees need the food. I now grow chamisa. I have an Apache plume. I have red yuccas. I don't necessarily like them. There is a place and a purpose that they serve. So, can I overwater? I encourage you to try. If you want xeric, true xeric isn't native. Be careful with the word native because you get stuck in about 10 choices. Sages, chamisa, Apache plume, yuccas, cactus. That's about it. But xeric, Russian sage, which is Bravaskia, Caryopsis, there's a whole lot of shrubbery that's pretty good low water. It's not native, but xeric, Xeric, really good options if you're very, very conscientious. And please, I need you guys to be conscientious because I'm not. Jennifer and I do not do much. So we use outside of our home, so we use a lot of water. I'm not the guy that's using 125 gallons. I'm the guy that's using hundreds of gallons. I don't have a lawn. I'm made of grass. I'm conscientious of it. We grow food. It's annoying and it's frustrating and it's irritating to me because my water bill is 2/3 surcharges. It's not the water's cheap. It's that I use so much water they're zinging me. Okay. We have a water problem. We live in the desert. If I have to pay for my water, I'll pay for my water. Half a gallon per hour, or a 2 gallon per hour dripper in 15 minutes is a quart of water. It's not enough. Gallon drippers are designed to run for at least an hour. In the summertime, our garden is on 2 and 4 gallon per hour drippers. In the summertime, like last year, we try to do 3 times a week. And for the most part, we're pretty successful. We might go to 90 minutes instead of an hour. Last year, we went every day. I don't think that's necessary, but we had a water leak. We thought we had a water leak. We came back, and our water bill was $500. So the water authority came out looking for a leak. Jennifer and I are smarter than this. We have 2 timers. I call them his and hers. They're not. The front yard timer, the backyard timer. We were going on vacation. We knew better. We set the timer. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4. Front, back. Guess what happens when you do that? It runs Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, Zone 1, 2, 3, 4. We were watering 8 times a day. For 2 months, nothing got overwatered. It's only 4 times a day because it was 2 timers. 4 times a day for an hour, nothing got overwatered. It was the nicest yard we had ever. And I was using 4 times as much water as I should have been using. Can you overwater? I encourage you to try. If you're going to grow Chamisa and Apache Plume and Yuccas and do a Xerix, then still do your soil amendments, do your mulching, water heavily when you water. The best way to water, and I teach it because it's teaching grass, and this is what I need you to go home with. This time of year, you're watering twice a week on the lawn, 20 minutes. You cut it back to 18, you cut it back to 16, you cut it back to 14. When you get to oops, you're right where you need to go, and you go back 1 minute. When we get to summertime, in May, it's 30 minutes. 28, 26, 24, 18, oh, too dry, back 2 minutes. I teach that with the lawn because it's easy to look at a lawn and know that 2 minutes is going to change your world. The same should be happening with your irrigation on your shrubs. You should be at an hour. You should be at 2 gallons at least. Maybe you can cut back to 50 minutes, but we want you at an hour. Maybe you start a little higher and come back twice a week this time of year, 3 times a week in summer, unless we're breaking records for heat, which we did last year. Soil amendment holds water, mulches hold water. You gotta get the water in there. We're hiring all kinds of new people right now, and they come and say, yep, I watered. This week it's happened. It's like, I knock it off the pot, the plant's bone dry. Gallons and gallons of water in a container.
I gotta do tree. How much should I water that?
Every day for 2 weeks, every other day for 2 weeks, 3 times a week the rest of the summer. Every day for 2 weeks, every other day for 2 weeks, 3 times a week the rest of the summer. As much water as the container is big. If it's a 5-gallon container, it needs at least 5 gallons of water. Can I overwater? No, I bet you can't. I'd encourage you to try. I would happily replace a tree you overwatered than underwatered. You can't overwater. Now, I say that and I have to dial it way back because you're dealing with caliche that's rotting stuff out that the water can't go anywhere. You're not going to dig through it if you can't, because sometimes the caliche spot's this big and sometimes it's as big as a car. You need to break through it. Maybe you can't dig through it. You got to break holes through some of
I
it.
had somebody actually plant in November.
Okay, so wintertime, that's it.
This little water thing,
Yeah, scrap that. You don't need to be watering as much in the wintertime. Fall and winter are a great time for planting
I
here.
mean, like right now. Like
Once a week.
It started to get 60 yesterday, and I put about, I don't know,
Twice a
3
week.
or 4 gallons in there. That's about the size.
Twice a week. Once a week in the winter, twice a week in spring and fall, 3 times a week in the summer.
Okay, and summer starts when?
when it's over 90 degrees. It's not dates. Spring started for us January 1st.
Direct sun is different out here.
Oh my God. You see this face?
It's okay.
Oh my God. There is stuff in this state that has got yellow paper is guaranteed to not fade.
Oh, yeah.
Look up there. It started this color. It hadn't been there 2 weeks. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the same basic principles apply. I'm living in East Mountains. Same basic, of course, we're a bit different climate, of course, out there, but the same basic principles apply.
Yes, backed off a little because you're a little cooler.
Yeah.
And because it's all, when I say twice a week, 3 times, when we're at 60 degrees, it changes. When we're at 90 degrees, it changes, and those are the things. And you'll rarely be above 90 there, which is nice. We talked about Santa Fe the other day, and they don't have air conditioners up there because it's 10 degrees cooler.
So one thing I would add to your East Mountain situation to keep in mind is wind. You're definitely windier, which is drying in the summertime, so that is something to be aware of.
Very much so.
A little bit of play a little bit with that because the wind can dry things out very, very quickly.
Back to this being the plant you took home, and it's been in the nursery, and we babied it and pampered it, and it's a rose, and we knocked its pads off and kicked it in the ground, and it's blowing 40 miles an hour. It's taking more water out of the plant than you can possibly give it. You can't give it enough water. That's why we don't sell bare root roses.
I have a question about roses.
You can't grow bare, well, some can. I'm not growing bare root roses here. It's too hard. Question about
This
roses.
house we bought, this woman had roses everywhere. She's got trellises down the side of the house, and she's got roses climbing on them. I don't really even want them.
No, well, that's a different story.
They're a lot of work, right?
They are a lot of work. A lot of fertilizer, a lot of water, a lot of work, a lot of pruning, a lot of bugs.
Stop
Put it
watering.
on ad. I mean, put it on next door or something. People will want it.
Really?
They'll come and
I'll
dig
take
them.
some.
See, you got people that'll come take it. Marissa Thompson's teaching a pruning seminar on roses.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, I
cool.
don't want to deal with them.
Also, I would just throw out there that the perception of roses being difficult is more of a thing than the actuality of that.
Because I've never had them in my garden.
So
Come to that seminar first. You might keep them a year. You haven't been through a summer yet.
No, we just moved here a month ago.
If you get what we get is spring and fall great blooms. The summer bloom sucks. It's too hot here.
Yeah.
Okay, but the spring bloom and hers do better than mine. I have a rose bed and it's on the west wall of my house. Our vegetable garden also, by the way, is in full sun. It's not partial. I don't shade it. People, I gotta shade. No. From the time the sun breaks the fence till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my vegetables are in full sun all day. They're fine. Oh, I gotta shade them. No, you don't. My roses on the west wall hate it in the summer. Great big beautiful flowers in spring and fall. The summer flowers half the size that last a week. That's it. That's all I get. I'm okay with that. Her roses she's got tucked in amongst perennials and other stuff, so they're shaded. They're a little cooler. There's other stuff around. Mine is west wall, nothing there, roses and dirt. It's not great. They much prefer being in and around other
Yeah,
stuff.
these are in places where they're going to get shade.
If you have deer,
No.
Yeah.
we have
We're
deer.
downtown.
Okay, so
They
when
eat
it's,
'em.
when it, like during the heat wave,
Yes.
do you water it more, or if you have them in containers, should you bring them in because they just melt?
When you're in containers, I think you gotta water every day.
Okay, but if they're planted in the ground after you get to the caliche, do you water them more, or should you make sure you have shade already?
We just, well, I'm not shading mine. I'm not doing that. They have to, and you guys have probably all heard this. Good luck, live or die. I'm done. And most of the time, what we do is go from an hour to an hour and a half. So we'll go for 4 gallon per hour drippers, 6 gallons when they get water, and when it was like it was last summer, Jen and I are out there with a hose. In addition to 6 gallons every day, we're out there with a hose.
So you shouldn't try and shade them, or you're just not going to shade them?
I'm just not going to shade.
So shaded would be better, and maybe.
I think you get mildew problems. You don't, I mean,
Yeah.
it's ugly to have shade up.
tomatoes specifically, are we talking? talking?
No, roses.
Oh, roses?
No.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm thinking anything.
You're talking
Oh,
vegetables.
oh.
I'm not sure, and I don't think.
I mean, I think that he and I would agree. I think that things that are intended to have sun should have sun. And yes, there's a lot of things that will benefit from a little bit less sun, but I would rather see you put it in a place where the sun's going to get off of it at a certain time, and then it goes and has its own natural space to be in a little less sun, as opposed to you trying to make that happen. Or maybe it's planting a tree or a larger shrub near something that's eventually going to shade something a little.
Right.
Most of the plants that we're talking about, I mean, obviously, other than the true shade lovers like blueberries and Japanese maples and what have you, most of the stuff is a full sun plant, and it will survive even our heat, even our sun, but you do have to be able to take care of it correctly.
She's still mad at me because I planted 3 red buds in a perennial bed that is now a shade bed.
It used to be the prettiest.
Now it's shade. Let's talk fertilizers. Yes, ma'am.
Just a question
Sure.
about, we moved into a house, everything is about 20 years old. There's Rhapheolepis in the shade, there's a vitex tree, there's an Austrian pine,
Okay.
Cotinia, they're all doing okay. Should I be watering them now?
Yes. Absolutely. Once a week in the winter.
Okay.
Now,
Everything, even because
everything.
One more.
Everything.
Wisteria.
Water it.
I have a giant wisteria. I should
Water.
be watering that. Oh wow. Okay.
Now, I say once a week, and again, it's because of my personality type. I teach some classes, I've done some stuff, I've done every 10 days, I've done every other week. Here's what I teach. If I tell you every 10 days and you missed a watering, it's been 3 weeks. It's 20 days. If I tell you every other week and you missed a watering, it's a month. I need systematic. If I tell you once a week and it's 60 degrees, then get out there and water. And if you miss one, okay.
I don't want to kill this thing. I mean, it's.
You probably can get away with every 10 days. You might get away with every 2 weeks. We had some moisture this year. You're not gonna, we see a lot more damage to underwater in spring than not watering in the winter than we do to overwater. How many were from here? How many remember Soil Tex? 1, 2. Soil Tex was a 1688. It was a red, white, and blue bag made by ACC, the Albuquerque Chemical Company. It was homogenized. This is not to give that true, meaning every granule had the same amount on every piece. This is, I'll show you in the jar. What made it special when I started the program with iron and sulfur lowering pH, and our pH being high and our water being high, sulfur lowers pH. Those gray bottles on that third shelf down there are sulfur and iron. Everything we sell is soil acidifier plus iron are all sulfur products. They lower pH. Soil Tex went bankrupt. The company, ACC went bankrupt. The company Soil Tex stayed around. People that were older and smarter than me, I would tell them this fertilizer is as close as you're gonna get. It doesn't say Soil Tex, I don't want it. Well, I can't fix that. There's pruning paint over here, we have it over here. If you came and asked me, should I use pruning paint? The answer is no. If you're a stubborn old man and you come in here and say, sell me some pruning paint, okay. If you come in and ask me, the answer is no, you shouldn't use pruning paint. I say that because this 1688, this company is in Portales, New Mexico. The grandson, younger than the other grandson, is standing there with his grandfather and says, what do you want? I said, I want a 1688. A 2:1:1 ratio, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, growth, flowers, roots, up, down, and around. Ways to remember: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, up, down, and around, growth, flowers, roots. What made Soil Tex famous was the iron and sulfur. It was 12% sulfur and 4% iron. This is 15 and 5. Ironite has 4.5% iron and 12% sulfur. This has more iron and sulfur in it than ironite has in it, and it has N, P, and K. Growth, flowers, roots. Super green lawn food throws people. Everybody that's used this fertilizer knows that it's my crack cocaine for gardeners. Trees, shrubs, lawns, and roses. What do you mean trees, shrubs, lawns, and roses? It says super green lawn food. Right, it's 1688. I can put whatever name I want on it. So I can teach people what is 1688, what number is on it, what is in it. Oh, let's put it in a jar and call it Landscape Special. Let me sell you this 4-pound jar for 20 bucks or this 20-pound bag for 40 bucks. Which one do you want to buy? They're not a lot alike, they're exactly the same. This product is in this jar. I do it so I can say to people, they're the same. Ideal for trees, shrubs, and roses. Oh, really? Is this not the same product? Absolutely. 2-1-1 ratio is a small enough amount of nitrogen you're not going to burn with it. Most likely, I wouldn't do it when it's 98 degrees. I think that's crazy. But the iron and sulfur are really important. On a lawn, you can feed 6 times a year. If you start now and go till Thanksgiving, you can get away with 3 times a year. But if you want a green lawn in March and you want to keep it green till Christmas, 6 times. You start in February, you go to Thanksgiving. It's way too early to feed fruit trees. Anything you see that's dormant, don't feed it. Let it stay dormant. It's in the next 2 weeks, apricots are going to bloom. And they're going to freeze and we're not going to get fruit. Apricots get fruit in Albuquerque 1 in 5 years. Peaches and plums and nectarines, that whole family, every other. Apples and cherries bloom.
Fruit I had last year that didn't freeze.
Yeah. When I'm wrong, it's that it didn't freeze. But that's rare. And when we get apricots, oh my God, it's like the heavens opened up and blessed us with apricots because they're everywhere. But it only happens every 4 or 5 years. Fertilizing a lawn can be done 4 to 6 times a year. It's time to start now if you want. The exception to that is warm season grass, which is Bermuda, or native grass. That it's way too early for. But if you're bluegrass or fescue, and most lawns here are cool season grasses, dethatch, aerate, pre-emergent, and fertilizer now.
What would you say about fertilizing evergreens?
I would say I'd like to sell you some fertilizer, but I still think it's a little early. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to do much either. It's not going to hurt anything. So if you're anxious, you know, Jennifer about a month ago was like, I got to go work in the yard. The burn pile is huge. It's beautiful. And we have also changed our philosophy in cleaning up our yard because of being beekeepers. Let it be. It's important. Those critters are hanging out there. They're living. I taught a class called What's Bugging You? 80% of our insects winter over in Albuquerque. Oil will kill a lot of those insects. This all seasons oil can be used in summer or winter. It's used stronger in the winter time. It's thicker. So it will kill a lot of insects that other things won't. And it'll be less toxic than some of this other stuff that's really, really toxic. It's mineral oil, basically. So it suffocates insects. Jen, that's my wife that keeps adding input to us, taught me a couple years ago that neem can be used as a dormant oil, as a suffocant. Oil works as a suffocant. But it also has insecticidal and fungicidal qualities that oils don't have. So I'm going to talk about tree and shrub because I think it's important. It's poison, and when it came out, we all kind of went, oh. But there are certain things that it's probably necessary for. Because we're beekeepers, and I thought I was the bee whisperer. I would not suit, I would not smoke. I'd pull panels out. Hey, come taste the honey. Jennifer reaches in. She's like, wow, do you taste the roses? Like, what? She said, do you taste the roses in the honey? I said, no, I don't. I quit treating my roses, guys. I'll live with some bugs. I don't want poison in my honey. And I don't want my bees poisoned either. This particular insecticide came out 25 years ago by the Bear Company. It was patented at the time. Imidacloprid, 1.47%. There isn't a chemical on that shelf that's less than that's at 1.47%. You pour this at the trunk of the tree, not the drip line, and it goes into the tree and lasts for a year. So you're not spraying, you're not getting the stuff on you. It lasts for a year. And when it first came out, we all mocked and balked and said, no way is that going to last a year. And why are we telling people to put it at the trunk and not the drip line? 25 years later, every company that makes chemicals is now making this. And we sell a lot of it. Probably more than I should. I'm not using it on my roses. I'd rather have a few bugs because I don't want my kids, my bees, my wife tasting honey that's got poison in it.
Hey, what's the name of that?
Imidacloprid is the active ingredient. This is 12-month tree and shrub, annual tree and shrub. Grab that fruit tree one on the bottom. If you have a pinon, you probably should use this. You're gonna get bugs on pinions, I promise you. If you have a pear or a rose, we don't sell much of this. Fruit tree and vegetable systemic soil drench. What's it? What's in it?
What is it?
It's this. Oh, but they say the molecule is small, big enough that it won't go through the stem of the fruit. Bullshit! If it's in the plant, it's in the fruit. But this lists fruits and vegetables.
Does that help the bark beetle?
Yes. We'll talk about that in a minute too. 1.47, 0.23, less than 20% the strength. My honest opinion with all my vulgar cussing is it's not that it's not in the fruit, it's that the parts per million will never kill us. They have done studies. They say this does not affect the bee. That bee. What about its son? What about its granddaughter? My opinion is it's affecting generations down the road. There are countries in this world that have banned this product. But if you have bark beetle and a pinon,
Can I take a look?
yeah, you better put something like this on it. Now, the harsh part is that 30 years ago, when we killed half the pinons natively growing in New Mexico, and who got the blame? Bark beetle. What killed the pinon?
Bark beetle.
Lack of water. Drought. A healthy pinon will push a bark beetle out. There's enough sap flow in a pinon, a bark beetle can't get in. We had an epidemic like our couple of years ago, and bark beetles were getting in healthy trees because there were so many. But what killed the tree was blue stain fungus introduced by bark beetle that became because of the drought. You could drive to the East Mountains and look on the west side of the mountain, the trees were dead because it was the west side and there was radiant heat and there was no water. Bark beetle, pine needle scale, borers, they're getting in pinons. And instead of having to spray some really toxic stuff on a regular basis and know the timing and the life cycle of the insect, if you put that around the root, there is a place for it. I do not for a minute believe that glyphosate is the devil spawn. Some of you may have a different opinion. Glyphosate is Roundup. The devil spawn is Monsanto because they knew it was killing us and they didn't tell us. I still use this product. I'm not going to breathe it. I'm not going to wash in it. I'm going to wear my gloves. I'm going to be safe. The product itself breaks down on soil. It doesn't stay around like chloridane that never breaks down, is always there. But that they knew and didn't tell us, that's wrong. The brutal honesty again, I'm going to tell you. We use some of the most toxic stuff in our yard because we're fighting Bermuda. And if we don't use this one over here called grass and weed killer, whoa, we're not going to win. And we're smart about it. We have about 12 raised beds. That product right there, stronger than Roundup. And the only thing we know that can kind of keep Bermuda at bay, I don't think it eliminates it. We leave beds like, we have, our garden is about this wide and there's 4 rows of raised beds. And this row this year is not going to get planted because we're going to treat with poison. So we'll plant here, treat this row. Next year we'll plant in here and the Bermuda will have moved this way or that way. And we'll just chase it around for the rest of our lives. It's okay. And we're using stuff that I'm going to caution you, if you're going to use it, it's highly toxic. But my mindset is, it's poison. Of course it's going to kill you. Rattlesnakes and black widows are organic, and they're just as toxic as the shit she's got in her hand, guys. Just because it's organic doesn't make it safe. Oh, it's safe. No, it's not. It's still poison. You know who goes to the hospital for the most insecticide problems on the shelf? The safest product on my shelf, pyrethrin. Because it creates things in us. We can feel it. It makes you tingly. You can, what is that? Good. You want that. You don't want to not smell it. You don't want it not to cause a scratchy throat. You want it to cause irritation. You want it to go, oh, propane doesn't have a smell. We put a smell in it because it'll kill us otherwise. Pyrethrin, people end up in the hospital with this one more than any of the rest of these because they think it's safe. If you go buy a critter ritter at Walgreens, on a critter on you for whatever reason that may be, this is what's in it. Go look at the label. They're all this. Know what you're doing. Read your labels. Don't go off label. Don't do things. I say all of that, and I got vinegar over there on the bottom shelf that's used for cleaning, and I sell it as a weed killer. Says it doesn't say anywhere on it that it'll kill weeds. I have another bottle right next to it that does say it kills weeds, so I can say, well, this one says it.
Does it kill weeds?
It does kill weeds.
Vinegar?
Vinegar. But it's a burn. It's a 30%, 20 and 30%. Vinegar off your shelf will not kill weeds.
No. But what is that magic formula? Vinegar?
20%.
Yeah, I've got the 30%. But then they say to add salt and...
Yeah, I don't like the salt. We have to deal with salt burn and problems anyway. If you're going to grow there, just vinegar.
Well, I'm trying to kill weeds. I think it's mustard weed.
But are you going to grow there?
No.
Then I guess you could. I don't like salt. Salt is not, it's like using salt in a hot water heater or a pool. Some of those things are extremely dangerous to your plant life.
But what about pets?
If it's toxic to you, if it's on this label, it's toxic to pets. Fish especially. I say all of that. We're using some of the nasties. We have 3 cats, 2 dogs, 6 birds. I've raised 4 kids. Nobody's ever gotten poisoned. I used to do some really stupid stuff. I am what they call chronic exposure. I've exposed myself to more chemicals than I care to remember. As opposed to acute exposure was, oops, I spilled it on me.
I have a quick question. This product here, if you've got Bermuda that's growing around like a fruitless mulberry type tree, is that gonna affect that tree if I use that product?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, I'll stop now because I'm past by 3 o'clock, right? Way past. Yeah. Anybody that needs to go, you don't have to go, but here's a way to get out if you needed to go. I'll stay and Jen and I will answer some questions.